Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about special incident and reporting abuse. So, abuse reporting. What are the laws? So, California Penal Code for Children, California Welfare and Institution Codes, California Title 17, Special Incident Reporting, and California Title 22, ICF-DDH and ICF-DDN, and the California Health and Safety Codes. So for the California Penal Code of Reporting Child Abuse, Section 11166 of the Penal Code, and the definition is Section 11165.1 and 1165.14. So the law only pertains to child abuse and neglect and does not pertain to dependent adults. Child Abuse Reporting Law. A mandated reporter shall make a report to any agency specified in Section 11165.9 or to the police or sheriff. Whenever the mandated reporter, in his or her professional capacity or within the scope of his or her employment, has knowledge of or observed a child whom the mandated reporter knows or reasonably suspect has been the victim of child abuse or neglect. The Penal Code definition of child abuse: physical injury which is inflicted by other than accidental means on a child by another person. Sexual abuse of a child or any act of or omission prescribed by Section 273, willful cruelty or unjustifiable punishment of a child, or 273D, which is unlawful corporal punishment or injury, or neglect of a child or abuse in and out of home care. The Penal Code definition of sexual abuse of a child can be rape, statutory rape, rape in concern, incest, sodomy, lewd or lascivious acts, oral copulation, penetration with a foreign body or object, child molestation, various forms of sexual assault, and various forms of exploitations. The Penal Code definition of child neglect: the negligent treatment or the maltreatment of a child by a person responsible for the child's welfare under circumstances, indications of harm or threatened harm to the child's health or welfare. So the term includes both acts and omissions on the part of responsible person. The Penal Code definition of severe child neglect: the negligent failure of a person having care or custody to protect the child from severe malnutrition or medically diagnosed non-organic failure to thrive. Those situations where a person having care or custody willfully causes or permits the person or health of the child to be placed in a situation such that his or her person or health is endangered, including the intentional failure of provide adequate food, clothing, shelter, or medical care. Penal Code definition of general child neglect: the negligent failure of a person having the custody of a child to provide adequate food, clothing, shelter, medical care, or supervision where no physical injury to the child has occurred. The Penal Code child abuse is not a mutual affray between minors. An injury caused by reasonable and necessary force used by a peace officer acting within the course and scope of his or her employment as a peace officer. In and out of home care, this does not appear to be an exception. When and to whom? The reporter shall make a report immediately or as soon as is practically possible by telephone and written report within 36 hours or receiving the information concerning the incident. To any police department or sheriff's department, not including school, police, or security department. Welfare and Institution Code, Section 15630, Section 15637, and the definition Section 15610 and 15610.65. The law pertains to dependent adults and elderly individuals only, not to children. So Department of Justice or DOJ mandated training video reviews on this law. The WNI mandated reporter law, any person who has assumed full or intermittent responsibility for care or custody of an elder or dependent adult, whether or not that person receives compensation, including administrators, supervisors, and any licensed staff of a public or private facility that provide care or services for elder or dependent adults, or any elder or dependent adult care custodian. Health practitioner or employee of a county adult protective services agency or a local law enforcement agency is a mandated reporter. Mandated reporter, any mandated reporter who in his or her professional capacity or within the scope of his or her employment has observed or has knowledge of an incident that reasonably appears to be physical abuse, abandonment, isolation, financial abuse, or neglect, or is told by an elder or dependent adult. A reasonable suspect's abuse shall report the known or suspected instance of abuse. When and to whom? By telephone immediately or as soon as a practical possible, and by written report sent within 2 working days. If the abuse has occurred in an LTC facility, the report shall be made to the local ombudsman or the local law enforcement agency. For WNI code definitions for physical abuse, assault, which is the Penal Code 240, battery is Penal Code 242, assault with a deadly weapon or force likely to produce a great bodily injury is Penal Code 245. Unreasonable physical constraints or prolonged or continual deprivation of food or water. Use of a physical or chemical restraint or psychotropic medication for punishment, longer than prescribed or for any purpose unauthorized by the physician. Physical abuse, sexual assault, sexual battery, Penal Code 243.4, rape, Penal Code 261, rape in concert, Penal Code 264.1, spousal rape, Penal Code 262, incest is the Penal Code 285, sodomy, Penal Code 286, oral copulation, Penal Code 288A, and sexual penetration is the Penal Code 289. Welfare and Institution Code, or the WNI Code definition of abandonment, is a desertion or willful forsaking of an elder or a dependent adult by anyone having care or custody of that person under circumstances in which a reasonable person would continue to provide care and custody. WNI Code definition: isolation. Acts intentionally committed to the purpose of preventing and that to serve and prevent an elder or dependent adult from receiving his or her mail or telephone calls, or telling a caller or prospective visitor that the elder or dependent adult is not present or does not wish to talk with the caller, or meet with the visitor where the statement is false or contrary to wishes, whether the person is competent or not. The WNI Code definition of financial abuse: the taking, secreting, appropriating, or retaining of real or personal property of an elder or dependent adult to a wrongful use or with intent to defraud, or both, and assisting with the above. WNI Code definition of neglect: the negligent failure of any person having the care or custody of an elder or a dependent adult to exercise that degree of care that a reasonable person in a like position would exercise, or the negligent failure of the person themselves to exercise the degree of care that a personable person in a like position would exercise. A WNI Code neglect includes but not limited to failure to assist in person's hygiene or in the provision of food, clothing, or shelter. Failure to provide medical care for physical to mental health need, and failure to protect from health and safety hazards, and failure to prevent malnutrition or dehydration. WNI Code neglects include failures of a person to provide the needs specified above for themselves due to ignorance, illiteracy, incompetence, mental limitations, substance abuse, or poor health. Title 17 Abuse Reporting to Regional Center is abuse, neglect are defined special incidents in Title 17 for Special Incident Report Regulation and must be reported to the Regional Center. Section 54327 of Title 17 and pertains to both children and adults. So reporting abuse to Regional Center, all vendors and long-term healthcare facilities shall report all SIRs for suspected abuse, exploitation, including physical, sexual, fiduciary, emotional, mental, or physical or chemical restraint, and reasonably suspected neglect, including failure, provide medical care or physical and mental needs, prevent malnutrition or dehydration, protect from health and safety hazards, assist in personal hygiene or the provision of food, clothing, or shelter, or exercise a degree of care that a reasonable person would exercise in the position of having the care and custody of an elder or dependent adult. So the report shall be submitted immediately, but not more than 24 hours after learning of the occurrence of the incident by telephone, electronic mail, or fax. A written report shall be submitted within 48 hours after the occurrence. The report must go to Regional Center with case management and the vendoring Regional Center if applicable. The Title 17 definitions: the requirement to report abuse and neglect under the Title 17 SIR reporting defines reasonable suspicion, however, fails to provide definition for physical abuse, neglect, and so forth. So the regulation do identify the WNI Code and Penal Code as the authority for the requirement. Title 22, Reporting of Substantiated Abuse. Section 73917 and for ICF-DDN. Substantiated instances of client abuse are reported to Department of Healthcare Services and to the client's regional center by telephone within 24 hours of the report of the incident and confirmed in writing within 10 working days. And abuse is not defined with Title 22 ICF-DDN regulation. The Title 22 reporting for substantiated abuse, Section 76916 for ICF-DDH. Substantiated instances of client abuse are reported to Department of Health by telephone with 24 hours of the report of incident and confirmed in writing. California Health and Safety Code Alleged Abuse Reporting, Section 1418.91, pertains to long-term care facilities, pertains to all ICF, DDH, and DDN consumers, was part of the Shelby Bill for Nursing Home Reform. California Health and Safety. A long-term health care facility shall report all incidents of alleged abuse or suspected abuse of a resident of the facility to the Department of Health immediately or within 24 hours. Failure to comply is a B citation. The Health and Human Services Code report, or the Health and Safety Code reports to the WNI Code Section 15610.07 for definitions of abuse. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment, like, and subscribe, and see you on the next video.